Have a seat on your porcelain throne. It's time to talk some shit on the Powell movement.
Welcome to the Powell movement. I'm your host, Mike Powell, and what a difference a week makes. I feel like I recorded my intro last week about being scared of this virus still, and then the next day, everything in the world is opening up and a lot of people are acting like the virus is gone. It's like we've won this shit. Now, while this is not totally true, everyone is relaxing, and I'm going to start relaxing a little bit too. The first big plan for me and my family is we're thinking about renting an RV for a month and touring the country this summer. I figure my wife and I will be vaccinated and our kid is a kid, so fuck it. I guess I should throw out there that if any listeners have an RV that they want to rent for a month in the summer in the Pacific Northwest to a responsible family of 3, shoot me an email at mike@thepowellmovement.com and we can work something out. I don't want to have to buy an RV or rent one for like $8,000. It is crazy. But in all seriousness, guard is being dropped and I'm not freaking out about it because soon we will all be vaccinated. And once we get our shots, we should get back to normal life sooner than later. And speaking of shots, I found my guest this week after watching a video that he posted on social media about being injected with something that has healed his knee problems. And I have knee problems, really bad ones. I blew my knee out in Vail in the late 90s. I had an infection from the ACL meniscus surgery gone wrong. I was in the hospital for a week. I was bedridden for 3 months. And I still never really found out what happened to me other than I needed a PICC line to kill this infection. And my knee has never been the same. The only relief I found is recently, and I found that through exercising and losing weight. And go figure, losing 35 pounds takes a lot of stress off of your joints, and my knee feels a lot better, but it's still not perfect. I'm still living in pain. But my guest this week, Jack Mitrani, is not living in pain anymore. This former X Games competitor and the current face of the X Games had nanobot treatment, which sounds really futuristic, and it worked for Jack. It worked so well that he started a business around the whole treatment. And while I'm not planning on getting this done to me anytime soon, I did want to find out more about the treatment and about Jack. And what I found is the treatment has worked completely for him, and he's even cooler on the podcast than he is in his Wendy's commercials. Now I should mention, while I've been more of a Nema vitamin guy, the supplement that former pro skier Josh Luback sent my way and I've been taking and it's been giving me a shit ton of energy, I sure do love me a spicy chicken sandwich from Wendy's. But before I talk about Jack and think about Wendy's, I need to ask you to do a few things for me. And the first is follow me on Instagram, @thepowellmovement. The second is to tell a friend who likes skiing or snowboarding or skating or biking about the podcast, because that really does help the show grow. I also need to invite you to International Snowblade Day. It's a live event I'm hosting with Sherry McConkey on Friday, March 26th from 7 to 8 p.m. Pacific time. This is all in the name of the Shane McConkey Foundation, and we are giving out over $10,000 in prizes, and all the money goes towards the McConkey Foundation, so it's for a good cause, for an amazing person. It's going to be way more fun than a podcast, and you can get tickets for the giveaway and all the information over at wildboundlive.com. Finally, I need to thank the folks who really make this thing happen and ask you to please support Peter Glenn Ski and Sports, the 10 Barrel Brewery, Glade Optics, Stanley, and Weed Maps. Now, it's time to talk to Jack Mitrani. What sparked this conversation is a social media post that you put up about your knee. You've had some serious knee pain over the past 5-6 years, and you're finally able to ride without pain again. You posted about it, and I reached out to you, and here we are. And the injury, it pretty much put almost an end to your professional riding career, at least riding without pain. What did you do to your knee? I think it happened partying.
Yeah, unfortunately, I love how this is how we're starting. Yeah, I had my snowboard career and I was pretty good about not hurting my knees. And then it didn't end my snowboard career. I was actually already transitioning on to more of the hosting and webcast and commentary stuff. But I'm at Scotty Lego's bachelor party in Miami. I'm coming off of a big 10-day party bender, if you want to go that far. I was on a bender. We got the Burton round tables, and I just was in Miami. And the first night, we are all back at the house, And sure enough, I'm like, yo, let's all go get pizza. It's like 2 a.m. Everyone's like, no, let's just order it to the house. And I'm like, no, let's just go out for a mission. So we go out to get pizza. I'm running on everything, flipping off of everything. And we get to this like little water fountain thing in Miami. And I'm like, jump over this. It's like 12 feet. Somebody filmed it. And so me and Scotty's friend both jump over it. Landed. My leg completely straight and locked out. And my femur ended up just blew through my meniscus, blew apart my tibia toe. And at the time, I'm like, there's no way. Like, I've done so much worse stuff to my legs. Like, there's no way it's broken. And Danny and I are laughing about it in the ambulance. And then sure enough, like the next day, reality sinks in. The surgeon comes in. He's like, you really messed up. Like, you're not going to do what you love anymore. You're ruined for life. And I'm like, okay, well, first off, I hate hearing that. So I'm getting out of here.
Yeah.
That was my first response. And I'm like, didn't believe him. But sure enough, over time, it proved that, like, dude, out of all my injuries, this is the worst one.
I mean, it's terrible that that happens, but you're at a destination bachelor party, given you're pulling the plug and you're going to get out of there. Does the party go on without you?
Party was in my hotel room with all the painkillers I was on. Meanwhile, they're all just out there, obviously feeling so bad. But one fallen soldier at a bachelor party, I think, is actually probably pretty more common than not. The party went on. They came and visited, and it is what it is.
Yeah. So you hurt the knee and the leg, and you realize that you're pretty much fucked and you're not going to be the same. When you get back on a snowboard the first time after you've gone through your surgeries and you go through all the rehab that you need to go to, do you realize that, like, oh, none of that worked and I'm still going to be in pain, and this thing that has been the biggest passion of my life, I might not have it at all anymore?
Yeah, it was definitely one of the hardest realizations. I remember being at a Peace Park and just like my mind wanted to do all these things and I couldn't. Like, it hurt to ride. It hurt to stand in my snowboard, like more than anything else too. Like, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was like something about the universe just saying, you deserve this. I don't know what it was, but I'd stand in my boots, my bindings, and just have automatic knee pain without even moving. So that was like, yeah, a few years of that, trying to like do a bunch of physical therapy, CBD cream, the list goes on. I tried everything and it was just not getting better.
Does it put you in a funk? Like, when you realize that you have it taken away, are you just totally bummed about everything a little bit because you don't have that fun aspect of your life anymore?
I'll tell you, man, it's like, I wouldn't admit it. On the surface, I probably seem like so happy. And, you know, that's my personality, to just be like positive about everything. But I think deep down inside, it was eating me up. You know, I think I like built up a lot more demons and resentment from that, you know, like from that night in Miami. I think it definitely did some more scarring, not only to my leg, but just to my soul for sure.
Is it one of those things where you're constantly thinking about it, so you're constantly looking for different doctors and different procedures and whatever you can do to get the knee to not hurt anymore?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I was doing for a while. And then I kind of just was like, you know what? I'm just going to have to live with this pain. It is what it is. I pretty much gave up, to tell you the truth. I was like, it's at the point where I can stay on the ground and just kind of cruise, and it hurts, but it is what it is. I got to live my life. Yeah, I kind of turned into more of that.
And it sounds like you finally find a treatment that works, because the post that you put up on the internet, it was a video all shot in one day of you doing a bunch of tricks which you weren't grabbing, which I wonder if you were involved in the actual content creation, because I saw it, I'm like, he probably didn't put that together. They probably were like, hey, we want to take one run with you. And you're like, get what you're going to get. But I'm clowning your video. But you're riding, it looks like you're having fun again. And the treatment that you had nanoparticles, it sounds like, put into you. And when I hear the word nanoparticles, I think Michael Crichton type shit where they're shooting little robots into your knee and it's going in and they're fixing it. But what is actually done to you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the craziest thing is like, it's just this futuristic way of healing that just you don't really hear about. You hear about painkillers, you hear about surgery, and every now and then you hear about stem cells, but it still seems so foreign. And so I looked into this, and it's nanoparticles. They're called exosomes, and it comes from the placenta, from C-sections. And basically it's just this micro little injection into your knee. And what it does is apparently helps rebuild cartilage and repair. Like, the cells just kind of know where to go, what's inflamed, what to do. And it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm going to get this injection and who knows if it's going to work. Might as well. What do I have to lose? And I got it. And for like a month, I'm just like, yeah, of course, this was just a hoax. Then I remember I was out going for a run and I could run a mile. And then at the mile mark, like my knee would hurt and that would be it. And I hit the mile mark and there was no pain whatsoever. So I just kept running. I think I ran like 3 miles that day and was like, wow. And then from there, it was just like, boom, the pain was gone. I went riding. There was no pain. It was just this like miraculous transition, to say the least.
And is this one of those things that you pay out of pocket, you go to a place that's not a hospital and you get this work done and you just pray?
Exactly. So where I got it done was in Aspen, Dr. Gershon's office, and you just pay it out of pocket. So I actually started living again with my dad, who's connected to the whole source. And basically what we're trying to do is just raise awareness to it and just get more people the treatment that they probably don't even know about. And yeah, I'm happy to like help with discounts and everything, just because I know what it's like to be in pain and not be able to do what you love. And so if anybody's listening to this and needs some help, just go to livingagain.com or hit me up on Instagram and let's take care of you. Let's get you back out there.
Ballpark for someone that wants to have it done, is it one of those things where it's like a $50,000 procedure? Is it a $5,000 procedure? What should they consider thinking about when they're looking into a procedure like this?
It all differs. Definitely not 50,000. Everything I would imagine would be under $5,000. I would say like in the $1,000 to $3,000 range.
It's like a dental implant.
Yeah, exactly. And look, if you not being in pain for under $5,000 for the rest of your life is well worth the spend. So just stay away from the green juices for a year and you'll make that money back.
Yeah, I totally agree. It sounds like something definitely worth looking into. I've had knee pain, so it was really interesting to me. But before you can start destroying your knees and having them fixed again, you have to live your life. And for you, it all starts on Long Island?
That's right. Yeah, little New Yorker.
Jets or Giants?
Dude, it's so random. Actually, growing up, I was a Packers fan. I was like 5 years old. My dad didn't really care too much about mainstream sports. And so I just remember like sneaking out of my room and stumbled upon the Super Bowl, and it was the Broncos and Packers. And I was like, dude, I'm going with the Packers, and they won. And now I'm a Patriots fan, but yeah, anyways, we don't need to go too far off topic.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about that. Skiing for you starts young though, and I'm guessing that's because your dad's not into team sports and it's a family thing. You guys start going to Vermont when you're like 5 years old. It's standard stuff. This is like 1993. Do you remember the first time you saw snowboarding? Because I'm guessing you start with skiing.
Definitely. That's right. We skied from when I was 5 years old to 8 years old. I remember the first day I was snowboarding like it was yesterday. It was Luke and I sitting down on the trail, and the snowboarder like caught air next to us, just like goes flying by. And we were like, oh, we want to try that. And the next day we convinced our parents to go snowboarding, and we never looked back. We like fell in love with it. We brought our snowboards in the show and tell in Long Island, and kids were like, what the fuck are those things? It was like the funniest thing.
And the story goes, though, that you find snowboarding, you fall in love with it really, really quick. And then somehow, I mean, it's around age 8, 9, 10. I don't know exactly what window, but you decide that you want to go to school in Vermont at the Stratton Mountain School, and you're going to convince your family to do that, which is crazy to me because no like 10-year-old kid thinks, hey, I need to go to a different school. But that's the story. And is that really how it happens? Like you lobby for it at a young age?
I'm so glad you asked, Mike, because that's the story I had in my head until just recently. So I had it. We convinced our parents to move to Vermont because we heard about this school where every Tuesday you get a half day to go snowboarding. I brought that up to my mom, and she's like, I mean, that was definitely part of it, but your dad and I were just looking for a change, and we all loved our weekend warrior trips to Vermont. So it was more of the fact that my parents actually wanted to get the hell out of Dodge and start a new life out in the country because they were, grew up in the city. So as of till like, a couple of weeks ago, I was convinced that like we fully lobbied, and we're just like, that's the reason.
I had trouble wrapping my head around it because I'm like, I've got an 11-year-old kid. He doesn't even know his address. And you're telling your parents you want to go to boarding school like 3 hours north and the whole family has to pack it up, and you convince them?
Yeah, apparently. It was a little bit of both, though. I mean, clearly we loved snowboarding more than anything. Like you look back in our homework assignments from Long Island from like kindergarten to third grade, and it's all snowboarding. I want to go to the Olympics. I want to do this. Like it's all about it. So, I mean, we definitely played a part.
And you go to Stratton Mountain School, and do you live in the dorms or do you commute because the family lives up there?
We had a house basically halfway up the Stratton Mountain access road. And yeah, we were super close by. We would have all the kids that went to Stratton Mountain School sleeping at our house, hanging at our house. We were kind of like the fun house. We had rails and skate ramps and pool tables, ping pong, the whole nine. And so it was almost like a dorm away from the dorm, so to speak.
Gotcha. So there was mischief happening at campus, but then also at your house.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, with a school like that has this amazing ski and snowboard program, is it hyper competitive or is it still just a whole lot of fun?
You know, it wasn't so hyper competitive. It was hyper work. Like we would have to do dryland training every day and ride every day, which doesn't sound like work, but I mean, you're working pretty hard to make it as a snowboarder or a skier or cross country, whatever it was. But it was fun. You know, we were young back then. It's just high school. So I feel like it was more about the fun and the camaraderie and getting to travel and the love for snowboarding over being competitive with each other.
Who was the crew at school coming up at that point?
Ooh, we had like Michael Goldschmidt, little bro Luke was in school. Danny Davis went there. Kevin Pierce went there. Kind of all spread out. But yeah, we had an insane crew. Jeremy Thompson, Brian Valerio, Nick Russell, who's killing it right now.
Yeah.
It was a solid crew, man. Those were the days.
Eventually, a lot of that crew kind of manifests itself out west. And I think around 2004 is when you convinced your folks to let you and your brother leave school to head out to Mammoth.
Yep.
We've already established that you didn't convince your folks to leave Long Island and go to Vermont. But this one, you actually did have to convince your folks. And that's got to be crazy when you are 15, 16 years old, primed to make bad decisions in life, because that's really the point in life where you really have no clue what's going on, but you think you know everything. And
totally.
You get them to let you move out there. Do they come with you, or is it like you guys get to go live the fun life unsupervised?
A little bit of both. So we got to give Mason Aguirre shouts because he was the one that really pushed it over the edge. He would come and stay with us during the Burton US Open at Stratton. And he told my parents, he's like, look, if you want Jack and Lou to actually make it in this, you have to move to Mammoth. It's like where everybody is right now. It's where all the best terrain park is. And so that helped push it over the edge. So we all moved there at first. My brother, sister, Ma, and Pa were all living out there together. And then they migrated down south to Leucadia. And so we definitely lived like what I like to call our college years in Mammoth, right in town there during one of the best eras imaginable. Really, we got lucky. That was a fun time to be there.
I mean, that was the place to be. I think it was the Unbound Terrain Park back then, and everybody was there. I mean, were you guys starstruck at first when you got out there and it's like all the dudes in the videos and all the dudes in the magazines are there?
Dude, you have no idea. So we actually, the first condo we were living in across the street, take one guess who's living across the street from us.
Mark Frank Montoya.
No, DK. Danny Cass and Dingo are right across the street. And so, of course, we're so starstruck. This is like our first introduction to like hanging out with our idols. And we used to have like airsoft gun wars going back and forth. And he'd just come over just unannounced and be like, hey, Al or Cindy, let me get some frozen pizza or cook something up. You know, it was surreal, man. It was just a surreal time for sure.
Sounds like summer camp and they're like the rock stars of camp. And you guys are just like, oh my God, I just want to hang out with you guys.
Exactly. I just want to be cool around them too. Like, you know, I just don't want to blow it. These guys are the coolest of the cool.
And does it become a cycle of like riding every day, drinking beer, smoking weed, chasing girls, and going from contest to contest, like the dream life for a teenager?
Yes, 100% yes. That's literally what it was. You can throw some school in there. It wasn't all just like piss off and have fun and live life like a snowboard rock star. We were disciplined. Our parents, they trusted us enough to like not completely be little shits and make it happen. And so we finished out high school doing homeschool and stuff. And that was pretty much it. But I'm not going to sell short how much fun we had. We lived across the street from the bar. And before we were 21, that would be like the after party spot. And I remember there was a big Transworld event in town. And we had a bunch of people over to our house. And they're like, all right, we're going to the bar. We're like, all right, see you later. They all came back to the bar and brought everybody with them. And so we keep partying at our house. And my sister's in town who hasn't been there for a while. She comes racing upstairs and she's like, everybody get the fuck out of the house. The ceiling is collapsing downstairs. We had so many fucking people in our house that literally we pretty much cracked through the whole ceiling. And so that was a fun conversation with our parents who left us there in full trust.
Now it's time for a sponsor break, and my first sponsor is the 10 Barrel Brewery out of Bend, Oregon. They have been brewing the best beer in the Northwest since 2006, and they started as a bunch of friends who live beer, brewing, and drinking it outside. Over the years, they have grown, but they have never forgotten their roots in skiing, snowboarding, and biking. I could list the countless things they have done for the sports and athletes, or even better, list the things they've done for the causes like the Surfrider Foundation and Protect Our Winters, but I don't have enough time. What I do have time to do is ask you to pick up a 6-pack of 10 Barrel next time you're at the store. And if you are more of a booze person, 10 Barrel mixed drinks pack a punch. To find out more about all things 10 Barrel, head on over to 10barrel.com. My final sponsor this round is one of my favorites, Stanley. And we may as well start their ad with the most important part. I'm going to save you 30% on all Stanley products. This is an amazing deal that can be unlocked with the code DRINKFAST. That's all one word and lowercase, and you use it when you check out at stanley1913.com. And if you spend over $200 with that code DRINKFAST, Stanley will also ship you a Powell Movement beanie with your order. It's a limited edition beanie, and Stanley's an amazing brand that I hope you know about. They're the ones that invented the category of keeping things hot and cold back in 1913. Think about that green bottle that used to keep your grandpa's coffee hot. That's the Stanley I'm talking about. They make all the things that you're going to need for your parking lot lunch sessions at the ski hill and your summer camping and RVing adventures. So head on over to stanley1913.com for that deal. Those are my sponsors. Now let's jump back into the podcast. While this is not intended for me to come off as a jerk, I probably will come off as a jerk in this part of the podcast, but how long does it take for you and I guess everyone to really realize that the best Mitrani snowboarder is going to be your brother?
Early on. I mean, that's not a jerk statement. That's just being true. I mean, that kid is so talented, and he still is to this day. And I always knew that. And to be quite honest, it was never really like my number one dream in the world to be the best snowboarder in the world. You know, like I knew Luke he was a child prodigy. So like we can start with that. I never even thought I was going to turn pro. And luckily enough, I just did, just being surrounded by all the talent that kind of came from Luke. But he certainly deserves the credit. And I for sure picked up the camera and started editing because I'm like, dude, I need to get my own thing. Like, I don't want to be older brother in Luke's shadow.
Because he's born with the gift. Like, you have to work really hard to just, like,
Dude,
even ride with the crew.
You have no idea. Like, it was insane. Like, he would just, like, go up there and be like, oh, I'm going to try double Michael Chucks. Boom, do them. And do nothing. Like, he doesn't go to the gym. He doesn't care about eating healthy. It was just meant for him, you know? Like, it was just too easy for him. And so, yeah, it was definitely times where you're just like, dude, I would kill for that gift once, you know, we got closer to competing and all that at the high level. But no, you're not a jerk at all by saying that. That is just damn straight, man. I bet you he could hop on a freaking board today after like riding for a week over the last 2 years, drop in and podium at X Games. He's that talented.
Yeah. And then in terms of the crew, I think that's kind of when the Frends Crew comes together, I think, in Mammoth. I've talked about the crew a bunch on the podcast before. There's Kevin, there's you, Mason, Luke, Kier, Danny. There's a ton of guys. Is everyone equals, or does it kind of look like most of you are equals and then you have older brother and Kier and little brother and Luke, and they're the ones who get the shit?
There's probably a little bit of that. But I think the best part about the Frends Crew is that everybody brought different things to the table. Everyone had different backgrounds from different places, different personalities. And it was always pretty level. Like, we're all on the same page. Like, dude, let's just have as much fun as humanly possible, do what we love, travel the world, and literally have the best job ever. I would say the only, like, one part was Kev Pierce got, like, really serious before his injury and before the Olympics. And he got, like, a mental coach and just started taking things really serious. And, you know, like, normally we'd stay at the house in Rochambeau for the Master, and he'd be like, no, I'm staying in the Master and you guys keep it down. And like the vibe definitely changed a little there where like Kevin became the elite.
Yep.
And we were just like, it's not really what we're all about. So we kept partying, whatever.
This is the time that you've grabbed the camera and you realize that you have a knack for this. Like, yeah, I'm going to snowboard and take it as far as I can, but you realize that content creation and doing shit that no one's really doing. In 2004, it's not like everybody has a camera like they do today. So were you one of the first guys like documenting and putting stuff on the internet and actually calculatedly creating content?
I mean, I don't want to take too much credit here, but I mean, I always had a camera my whole life because Luke was so fucking talented. I was like, I got to film this kid, whether we were like on a trampoline or skating at Woodward. Like, I always had a camera. And then in 2009, Frends Crews all going to the Olympics. And I was like, you know what? There's so many of these like corporate NBCs and ESPN that are going to tell mainstream stories, but I have this inside access and lens that nobody else can get. So I'm just going to keep filming and putting this stuff out on the internet every single day. It's like our journey to the Olympics. So it started as Friends Vision, clip of the day. Every single day I would just upload a clip.
Yep.
Way before Instagram. And that was kind of it.
But you're also a professional snowboarder at this point. Like, you're putting out content, sure, but people are paying you to snowboard and you're doing contests. I mean, it's not like you're not badass. You're making the X Games and going to a lot of big contests around the world. We're not really going to talk about your competitions that much, but what's the most memorable for you when you think of like your best contest day? What was that?
There's two, but I think the one in Austria. I mean, there was like, this is a love-hate. So I went to Arctic Challenge. I wasn't even competing. I was watching Luke at a quarter pipe contest. And I heard about like, you know, the record being under 10 meters. And if you go over 10 meters, you get this like insane Oakley watch. And it's like this huge ordeal. And so that was instantly my goal. And then in 2008, Austria at this Aaron style, it's a quarter pipe contest. I went, I think 9.2 or 9.3 meters. And I'm like, all right, all I got to do is go a little bit higher and I can go 10 meters. So I did. And I compressed on the way up and went 10.2 meters all the way to the deck onto my ass.
Oh.
And the clip is on my Instagram and hilarious if you ever want to see it.
Yeah, sounds funny.
It was memorable for sure in both ways. Like, I won highest air. I probably won the highest air to ass ever. So it was just an awesome day.
Did you get that? Is it a time bomb? Is that what you got?
No, because I didn't fucking land it.
Oh.
But whatever. It's all good, dude. I went 10 meters. It was my goal. I never said anything about having to land it.
And what's weird with snowboarding is you don't have to be the best. Like, to be a pro snowboarder, you don't have to win anything. Like, every rider is an influencer. They're their own brand as well.
Yeah.
And your brand was worth taking notice of. Who was paying you in the days of you being a pro snowboarder?
So Burton was the main one. We had Amp Energy, Mophie, the phone charger company.
Yep.
At one point, I had Billabong at one point. Man, I think that's the majority of it. Yeah.
Were there years where you didn't have to take any side jobs, didn't have to get any money from mom and dad? It was just snowboarding, paying the bills, and paying for the lifestyle?
Exactly. Yeah. And that was actually kind of some pressure I put on myself when I was younger. I was like, if I turn 21 and I can't support myself from snowboarding or anything surrounding it, then I'm going to college. And by the time I was 21, I was able to do so. And that was that.
And so with the Friends, like, everybody has a role in the project, and you look at Kier as the elder statesman who's going to handle the business part of it and create the business plan for the headphones. You have Danny, Kevin, Scott, Mason, all those dudes who have a shot at winning the biggest contest on the planet. Luke is the next one that's going to be like the next guy in snowboarding, and everybody knows that. Does everybody realize that you are the guy that's going to take Friends and make it bigger than almost anybody can with the content? Do they realize how big Friends Vision can be?
I think so. Yeah. There was definitely a lot of respect and appreciation for what I was doing, which was really cool. And Kier gave me the reins. He gave me a spot at the office, and that was the most authentic marketing we could ever have as one of the sole members actually putting it out there. And so, yeah, there was definitely a lot of that. And then the Friendly Gathering took off too. I mean, my whole life revolved around Friends. Like, all I wanted to do was, whether it be content or putting events, like, I just wanted to promote this whole, No I in Friends concept and lifestyle. And that was that. Yeah.
When you look at the Friends and you look at the Friendly Gathering, there's like a mission statement and there are these pillars that Friends stand by. There's 10 of them. I can't remember what they are. But are you like the mastermind behind that kind of stuff too, of like the feel good, love each other kind of vibe? Is that you putting it together?
Yeah, for sure. And it definitely grew into that, like, it was more of, we were living that without having to like put any titles to it. And then I started just kind of like reading books about friendship and like really trying to explain it, especially, to sponsors to help us put on the events and everything. And I just saw like, okay, let's really go in that direction of what it's about and try to be a little bit more intellectual about it and meaningful about it. And that was a fun time, to say the least.
Yeah, and when you're creating that vibe, are the videos also helping drive sales of products? Like, are you able to put out different content and be able to see more headphones move?
Well, that was the goal for sure. Like we would do these little infomercials and everything, but man, I was just so focused on just having fun making videos that I never really knew what was going on with the business until now, which was Frends just went way too big off the launch. The product started breaking. We couldn't sell them. And then it turned into a women's fashion headphone brand and then went bankrupt. That's the short version.
Yeah, I talked to Kier about that, and I think there might have been hard feelings. There's probably water under the bridge now, I would think, or I would hope. Maybe not with Scotty, but I don't know, with everybody. Who cares? But with Frends, is it a big financial investment for you? Do you have to put in like 20, 30 grand to get Frends off the ground, each person?
Totally. We all had to throw in some significant dollars that we thought for sure would come back. And we were so young at the time. I want to say we were like 18. This was our first introduction to business. And like, dude, it was just so built off of trust and excitement. Like we put in, I don't know, probably like all put in 50 to 100 grand each.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. And that was like, that was worth billions back then, like that was everything. So definitely was a big learning experience. And look, it's definitely water under the bridge too with Kier. Like I always respected what went down in the sense that he had great intentions. He was trying his best and it just didn't work out and he had to pay the price. And so like I instantly was the one to forgive him and be like, everybody else, forgive the poor guy. Like, I don't think he had it in his mind to just screw everybody over. He just dug himself into a hole and kept going deeper and deeper. That's just what happens.
He wanted all of you guys to become rich. It wasn't like he was making any decisions thinking that it was going to hurt anybody. Unfortunately, it went to women's headphones. And when you guys found out about that, that had to be a weird thing to find out. Like, wait a second, my cool snowboarding brand is now a women's fashion brand.
Heartbreaking, dude. I remember because I pretty much built the Facebook page and this whole community on there. And I remember one day logging on and reading the about. And there was nothing to do with the history and what it was about. And that was the day it just died for me. I was like, it's gone. So then I just shifted everything into Friendly Gathering. It was kind of like Danny and my way to continue on that legacy that we were building.
Well, back when the Frends were the Frends, in the beginning, you guys were friends with everyone, it seems like. I've talked about this a little bit with Danny before, but you guys were really cool with Shaun White, it seemed like at first. You may have even lived with him at one point. Is there any truth to that?
I never lived with him. Kevin lived with him for 2 days or something, but we lived nearby. He was in Southern California, and yeah, we were best friends, traveling around, hanging out, playing a shitload of Monopoly, and got him drunk for the first time in New Zealand. That was super fun. Those were the days, yeah. And then it just all came to an end so randomly and just so dumbly and unfortunately, but it is what it is, and we're friends again now, so it's all good.
Somebody must have lived with him, because I heard some random story about you guys came home from a trip and all the stuff was put out on the front lawn, and it's you're not living here anymore?
Yeah, so that was Kev. That's the famous story. So the whole story goes like this. We were all partying, hanging out at Shaun's house, and I was hurt at the time. And the next day, everyone was going to Japan for the Nippon Open. And Shaun jokingly is like, hey, if you beat me in ping pong, I'll bring you to Japan. You can just come hang out. And I'm like, word? So we play ping pong. I win. I'm so stoked. And he's like, fuck that, best of three. Then I lose the best of three. And it was just that's where the whole sourness started. And then apparently they get into this fight in the elevator, and Shaun freaks out and just kind of turns against everybody, takes the fire extinguisher, spraying it on everybody. And maybe they were joking around, but it led into, I think, some deeper pissed offness, competitiveness. And Kevin was living with him at the time because he was going to buy a house in SoCal. And so when he got back, all Kevin's stuff apparently was on the front steps in boxes, being like, dude, get out of here. So I don't know if that part's true. Kevin says it is, and Kevin's my boy. He doesn't really lie. So
right.
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
but that happened, and then that spread through the media, and then it like literally just tore everything apart, and it became the story about Shaun versus Kev, Shaun versus Frends, and like, yeah, it just sucked because I was just like sitting back, like, dude, Shaun was my homie. Like, I had nothing wrong with him, and like one little like girly fight in Japan, and now all this shit, like that just sucks.
It made it seem like that there is something fundamentally different between Shaun and the rest of snowboarding for some reason. Like he's on a
Yeah,
bubble and you guys aren't. And it all kind of stemmed from right about there is where the crossroads came.
yeah,
He was
yeah.
cool. Like people, I think, liked him a lot more before that. And then people don't think he's as cool anymore.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think it messed him up. Like all the stories that were being told just like replayed in his head and came true. And so, yeah, Shaun, if you're listening, much respect, dude. I'm sorry that that shit went down. And I'm happy to see you freaking rocking and rolling today in snowboarding. Like him being out at X Games this year was super cool. And being out at Natural Selection, just cruising. I think he's definitely has like a new love for snowboarding that I think disappeared a little while ago. So it's cool to see.
Yeah, I don't think anybody in the sport has had the trajectory that he had where he was like famous when he was like 7 years old because he had that whole
Yeah.
Burton Chopper program. And I guess when
Yep.
you're being told that you're great, great, great for so long and you are, it has to mess with your head at some point.
Yeah.
It's good to see that he's back. With the Friends, you brought up Friendly Gathering, and it's kind of like a hippie music festival, and I think you guys eventually have it in Sugarbush, Vermont, but it starts in California, and it's like born out of tragedy almost. I mean, Kevin has his horrible injury, then Danny Davis has his late night injury, and between those two, is there just like a whole bunch of self-reflection between you all, and then looking at the brand and what's going on with that, and just looking at yourselves like, what the fuck are we doing? We need something where we can go decompress and just be ourselves.
Nailed it on the head. It was like, yeah, Kevin got hurt. Danny got hurt. Scotty went to the Olympics and got third. So much happened. You know, we had such high hopes for that season, and it ended up being the most traumatic, depressing season ever. And so summer was coming up, and I'm like, we got to keep this momentum on high. Let's just get everybody back together in Mammoth and just call it the Friendly Gathering, have some fun. Partly to like, you know, keep promoting the Friends and the headphones, what I was all about, but also, yeah, just to like reset, just literally get everybody together, get back to the core of why we're doing this and just hang out and have a good time.
I think the first year it's like 250 people and it's more of like a camping thing where I can just see like a bunch of people smoking weed, doing mushrooms and listening to music out camping. But eventually this thing grows into like a pretty big like 3-day music festival. How many people go eventually? Like how big does it get?
Yeah, then it moves to Vermont. It goes to 500 to 1,000, all the way up to like 4,000 people over the years. It was taking shape on its own. Like we just had the premise and we're like, we're just going to promote this whole philosophy of no I and friends, life is better, live together, combine that with music, camping, beautiful Vermont, and see who comes, see who shows up. And it kind of went from this like reunion to a legit mini music festival with just a really amazing vibe. And so, yeah, it was pretty surreal to see how that thing took off.
Now it's time for my final sponsor break, and Peter Glenn Ski and Sports is your one-stop shop for all things ski, snowboard, skate, run, water. Peter Glenn has had it all and has had it all for over 60 years. This week, Peter Glenn is doing an O'Brien Clutch 138 wakeboard and binding giveaway to celebrate spring. The Clutch features a timeless shaped board that pro-level riders have fun shredding on, but is just as comfortable teaching new riders how to play on the water. To enter the contest, follow Peter Glenn Sports and O'Brien Water Sports on Instagram, like the giveaway post, and tag 2 friends you'd like to take out on the water. Winners are drawn on Friday, April 2nd, and it's 1 entry per person. To find out more about Peter Glenn Ski and Sports, head on over to peterglenn.com. My final sponsor is Glade Optics. I've been wearing my Glade MagFlight goggles all season in the wet, heavy snow of the Northwest, and they have been amazing. They don't fog, they look great, and their lenses are the easiest interchangeable lens system that I've ever had. The goggles are amazing. They're a small company with a core skier who really wants to build this and stay within the industry, so please support Glade. And the way to do it through this podcast is to buy a pair of goggles. And doing that, I'm going to save you 20%. Yes, it used to be 10, but now it's 20%. If you head over to gladeoptics.com, go shopping, and when you check out, type in the code TPM20, you will save 20% on your goggle order. Those are my sponsors. Now let's jump back into the podcast. The next big event that happens in your life really happens to your brother. Luke hurts himself. He's in New Zealand, and you get a phone call. Is it kind of like you're on a plane right away? Because I would think Luke's like your best friend.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I would have been on a plane right away no matter what, but coincidentally, I was in San Diego flying to New Zealand the next day. So either way, I was going. So the timing couldn't have worked out better. But man, that was one of the worst phone calls I've ever gotten from Danny. Danny Davis calls me and he's just like, classic Danny, just no information, but hey, Luke just fell. It's his neck. He's in ski patrol. No one's allowed to see him. That was my update. And it was like just about to go to bed, just like, what? And then just kept trying to call the New Zealand Ski Patrol and finally got a hold of somebody. And it was just like, he's in a helicopter. He's flying to Christchurch, something with his neck. And I'm just like, heart in my stomach, call my mom, call my sister. Definitely a horrible, horrible day.
So you have to get on a plane, fly like 20 hours, and all you know is that your brother could be paralyzed for the rest of his life, and you know nothing else, and you just can't get any information?
Well, I finally got the information. I actually got to talk to him before I flew out, thank God. Otherwise, yeah, that would have been a flight from hell.
Yeah.
Then he was just like, I'm okay. I was paralyzed, but then everything snapped back into place. My neck is broken. I'm going to get surgery. I was like, cool, hang in there. I'll be there however long. I'll be there 2 days because that's how long it takes. And then my mom flew out and we spent like a week or two in Christchurch just hanging out with him, feeding him good, healthy nutrients, dude. I bought a Breville and was just like pumping healthy shit into his body for the 2 weeks we were there. Because you know how hospital food can be.
I do. And speaking of a Breville, I don't even know what the fuck that is, but I'm going to assume it's something that you crank out healthy stuff with. But
Yeah.
In your career, did you go the trajectory of like pizza, McDonald's, weed, beer to maybe more classy Prosecco wine and pasta to like yoga and fully a healthy dude now?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I was never like that bad, like McDonald's. Like my mom is an incredible cook, so we grew up eating really good food. And then Kevin Pierce was a huge health nut and got me and a lot of the Frends crew into eating healthy. Like we never knew what the fuck flax seeds were. And like we're eating flax seeds and oat bran and all this crazy shit. And nutrition became super important. So I'd say like 2009 on, nutrition's been a huge part of my life, and I love food. I love wine. I love all the high end stuff for damn sure.
From dirtbag to classy.
Dude, I was never a dirtbag.
All right. Okay. Sorry, I just make these assumptions.
At least I hope I wasn't, dude. But no, I definitely am a lot more bougie than, fuck it, I was a dirtbag. All right.
So Luke is forced out of snowboarding, and he never really achieved his potential, which is frustrating, but he can walk, and that's all that really matters.
Bruce.
Your end, I mean, it comes from injury in terms of like injury takes snowboarding away from you, but you're at the tail end of your career as it is.
Yeah.
And we started the podcast with your injury, but how do you go from supposed to be competing in the X Games to being an X Games host?
You know, it's like that Lennon quote, like, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. Like, I actually moved out to Topanga in California. I got the call one day from Brian Knox. He's like, hey, dude, we're taking your name off the Burton website and the team. And I'm like, it makes sense. I get it. But remember that just being such a hard phone call. And then, like, what is next? Like, I was doing webcasts and stuff, and I never thought that would turn into anything serious. Even, like, the first call I got, like, hey, do you want to do a webcast? I'm like, I mean, sure. If I get to go to Europe and, like, hang out and just talk about the event, that sounds great. And make a paycheck without having to risk my body and basically like puts me at like 4th or 5th place. Sure. That sounds incredible. And so I did that, and it kept spiraling. Like all of a sudden it was like, hey, you want to do this? You want to do that? X Games reached out. Hey, do you want to do this digital late night show? And I'm like, yeah, it sounds super fun. And then it just turned into a phone call from X Games being like, hey, we want to make you the face of X Games. And I'm like, dude, don't call me with this BS. Like that's true. And then sure enough, I'm like out there trying to make it in the film world, like making videos and everything. And then the next thing you know it, I'm the face of X Games. And I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, without a huge broadcast history, like in the days leading up to your first X Games, do you wake up in the middle of the night with like cold sweats, and is there fear or like
Oh
ice
yeah.
water pumping through your veins?
I don't wake up in the middle of the night because I can never fall asleep, dude. I was so nervous. I was just like studying everything I could and straight up just thrown into the fire, like live television, no idea, like putting an IFB in my ear pretty much for the first time and like having a producer talking to me while I'm talking to people.
Did you freeze up? Because some people just freeze up at first.
I didn't, I think, thankfully enough, because I had a co-host, Allison Hagendorf, who's a TV pro at the time. And she really helped kind of like carry some of those, more heavy lifting experienced positions. But no, dude, I was nervous. And I feel like this year, it was like 5 years in. It's the first year I went into X Games not like freaking out. I was finally a little bit more comfortable and like, I get it now. It makes a little sense because you're right. Like, I didn't go to school for this. I just kind of kept saying yes to these opportunities, and that's it.
Yeah, and that's how you build your experience. And
Right.
when you do that first X Games, you drop the mic at the end. You don't drop the mic. You probably are questioning yourself the whole time. But when you finish, do you realize that you did well enough to get invited back?
Yeah. So Tim Reed, the VP of X Games, he gave me a bunch of compliments, some pointers, and he gave me a gold medal to take home. Like, it was super grateful and appreciative. And I definitely felt like they were in it for the long haul with me, where they were like, hey, dude, this isn't a one and done thing. You're only going to get better as the years go by, and you're an authentic fit, being that you come from this world and you've competed. And so, yeah, I definitely felt like they wanted me to succeed more than anything. And they weren't expecting me to hop on and be as good as Salema was. They were just like, let's get this kid started and let's work with him and help him become our host.
Is that hard replacing Salema when he's like the dude that you've grown up?
Oh.
You've seen him go to the NBA and come back, and
Yeah.
you're supposed to follow in his footsteps, and he's got that
Oh.
amazing voice and personality, and you're developing yours.
Totally. That was the hardest part about it. Like, you'd see him post something on social, or you'd see something of me get posted on social, and people are like, I like Salema better, blah, 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 bring Salema back. And it's like, dude, no doubt about it. He was the man, and he helped create what X Games is. Like, he was just, I'm not going to say right place, right time. He definitely was, but he also, obviously, he's incredible at what he does, and there's nobody that could replace him. And so my whole thing is like, just keep being me and keep doing me, and hopefully that works out. And I know a lot of like the 90s X Games fans are definitely like all Salema, all hail Salema, but hopefully this like next generation gives me some love and respect, because that's all I care about, dude. I just want to make the people happy and get respected. That's all.
I think with your job, it's more about people not saying that dude sucks, and no one says you suck. Like, you don't want to have to think about the announcer. You want to think about the event, and the announcer just enhances it. When you talk about an announcer, it's usually when they're doing something bad. Like, I never am like, that guy was so great, but if he sucks, I'll definitely point it out.
Just don't suck, dude. That's it. That is what I'm carrying into any future role. I love it. It's true.
I mean, it really is, because it's personal time that you have with someone when they're going to sit and listen to you. And if you're not good at it, it's evident right away, and you're good at it. So it would be hard for you to fuck it up, because it's just who you are and your personality. One thing that I think is cool is that you have a lot of work going on with the X Games, but it seems like you have work within work at the X Games. Like, you say that you're all healthy, but you're promoting Wendy's out there. Is Wendy's a sponsor, or is it part of your X Games deal?
Wendy's is a huge sponsor of X Games, and dude, it's just great people. Like, the people that work at Wendy's are great people. Getting to know them and going to shoot a commercial, like, dude, it's just so fun. Like, you get to go out and like see this huge production and behind the scenes of how it comes together. Like, sure, is it like my first choice to go eat Wendy's? Maybe not, but
Their spicy chicken is fucking awesome.
I mean, yeah, dude, it's Wendy's. It's bomb. Like, I've got a history with Wendy's. I went to Wendy's with my grandma for the first time. I was dunking fries in the Frosties. I feel like in snowboarding, you get a lot of hate for selling out, for sure. And I never really cared about that much, because it's like, dude, these are the people that support us, support snowboarding, put it on a bigger stage, and make it possible for us to make this a career. So there's definitely the balance of like, sometimes you just gotta like bite the bullet and do some shit to live your life. It's way more worth it than just being the cool guy that doesn't really get all the opportunities because he was too cool.
You got to sell before you sell out, and you should be working with the people that are supporting the sports on the big time level, which you are. But I'm curious too if they pay you or if it's just they pay ESPN and you get paid through ESPN.
They paid me for sure.
Cool. And then in terms of other sponsors, like the Burtons who took you off their website because you weren't, a pro enough snowboarder at that point to be on their website. Are you a pro again for Burton? Like, do you have a retainer with them?
I'm not a pro. Everyone's using the term ambassador. So I'm a Burton ambassador, but I've got like a real job at Burton now too. Jake Burton hit me up years ago and was like, hey, I'm starting this brand, Mind 77. I want to get you involved with like the filming and the social stuff. And I was like, that sounds like the coolest thing in the world. And so I got brought on as the content director for Mind 77, just like planning the photo shoots, editing the videos, posting them up on social. And that has just been like the dream job. That was a job I was always going for. And then like snowboarding got in the way and that like hosting got in the way. So
yeah, well, then maybe other sponsors outside of Burton, because it sounds like you got a pretty sweet deal there. But do you have a bunch of sponsors or people that have made you ambassadors and pay you a retainer because you are guaranteed more TV time now than you ever would have had as an athlete?
Yeah, absolutely. It's more like that probably has a lot to do with it, the TV time. I think a lot of it's social too. But I work with Pacifico Beer, Martin Guitar, Toyota, One Wheel, Sands Meal Bar, Earbuds Music, the W in Aspen. I just got off an awesome call with Crocs yesterday. Like, it's just, yeah, this is kind of like what I love to do. And with each of these deals, it's really just like, hey, I love your brand. This is what I want to do. I want to like make some videos, put them on social, and that's it. And that's how I get to live my life and feed my family. So I feel like the luckiest dude on the planet.
You are. I mean, you don't have to perform other than you have to be creative and speak your mind, and just your personality helps make you money, which is amazing. At this point in the show, I've got something that I call inappropriate questions.
Oh boy.
Yep, I get someone that you know. In this case, I got your younger brother, Luke, to ask 3 questions, and they can be anything. And Luke has done this before. He did it with Danny Davis, and he was really, really good at it when he did it with Danny, which might not be so great for you.
Oh, he's probably just nervous I'll kick his ass if he crosses the line.
Actually, in those exact words, he did say that at one time, but that's not in the question. I didn't say that. But I should also mention that Luke's also really great at making music, and you can hear his music at LukeMitranimusic.com. But are you ready for Luke's question number 1?
No, but hit me.
All right.
All right, question number 1, Jack. This is actually from Scotty Lego, who I just talked to. Inappropriate question is, what is the story behind the fight you and Scotty got into New Zealand? Oh, you're probably going to kill me for that one.
It's comedy. Dude, I'm happy to tell that story. I'm not going to kill you, Luke. That's nothing crazy. I was standing up for our mom, little bro. This is the only fight I've ever been in my life. And full moon, we're out drinking at Shooters in Wanaka, New Zealand. And it was just a crazy kind of like night. And Scotty and I are leaving the bar. And these 2 guys from New Zealand are out there. And they just make this comment about like being from the US. And they're just talking shit. And then we start talking shit back. And then one of the guys says some nasty comment about my mom, and I'm like, what'd you say about my mom? Like classic out of a movie. And I spit on the guy. He comes after me. The other dude comes after Scotty. And it was cool to learn that I actually knew how to fight, maybe the liquid courage. And we both won the fight until we're walking away and I have my back turned from him, and Travis Rice is there. He actually breaks it all up. And I'm walking away, and then boom, sucker punched from behind, punched in the nose, broken nose, fall to the ground. Next day, Scotty realized his knuckle is broken, and he's filming for Travis Rice's movie. What was the one before Art of Flight? How am I forgetting this?
That's It, That's All?
That's It, That's All. And has to fly back to the States, get surgery, and fly back the next day from New Zealand because he had a broken knuckle.
I'm sure Travis was pretty psyched on that.
Oh, yeah.
All right, question number 2. This is the Weed Maps question of the podcast because I have Weed Maps as a sponsor, and your brother went into a weed question, so I decided I'd make it the question of the podcast, and here it is.
Nice.
Jack, what is the story behind you getting really baked, smoking a ton of weed, going into the grocery store, and you like ran into a girl that you kind of liked at that time, and you just got super paranoid and had really bad cotton mouth? I'll have you tell the story, but that one's probably going to be good.
There we go.
I can't believe he remembers that. That is so random, but so funny. Holy cow. We were in Tahoe. I went to the grocery store with this girl that I did have a crush on. And we go into the grocery store. I am super stoned. And sure enough, I like open up this box of Fruit Loops and I start eating Fruit Loops in the grocery store. And I'm by myself at this point. So I'm eating them. And then all of a sudden I realize, holy shit, I have the world's worst cotton mouth. I can't speak. I can't talk. And so I finally bump back into this girl and I like just can't talk. And it's like not like the funny I'm stoned and have cotton mouth. It's like the holy shit, I'm so paranoid. My whole world is falling apart. I have Fruit Loops in my teeth and I can't talk. Awkwardness. And that was it. I don't remember how it ended because I just wanted to black it out until now, but there you go.
All right, that's the Weed Maps question of the podcast. Here are a few words from Weed Maps.
Weed Maps is exactly what it sounds like. It's simply the place to go online when it comes to finding what you need, so you have absolutely nothing to worry about. The cannabis market can be a bit of a treasure hunt, but Weed Maps will get you straight to the source with no worries. Whether you're seeking out the best locations, deals, doctors, or strains, we offer online ordering and delivery where legal. No need to waste your precious time searching elsewhere. Go to weedmaps.com or download the free app today. It's your ultimate guide to cannabis. Weed Maps.
That's enough from them. We will go into our third and final question.
Okay.
So, Jack, question 3 to me is just asking you, what's the most ridiculous thing you've done with one of the Frends crew members, whether that be Scotty, Mason, Kevin, or Danny? Who's the most wild, and what's the craziest thing that you got into?
Oh, man.
I know, it's a pretty wide open one. It can go anywhere.
Oh, that's literally impossible. I got in trouble with all of those guys. I mean, I remember pushing Danny in shopping carts home from the bar in Australia, like 10 miles. One time with Lego and I always love to get in the most trouble, I think. And we were out in Locks and we were coming home from the bar and decided to like throw all of the outdoor furniture off like the ledge of this hotel. And then the door's locked for the front door of this hotel, and it's this like beautiful historical hotel, and he rips the whole handle off the front door of it. We get in, we go back to the room, and then we feel bad, so we go down, we put everything back on the patio, and next morning we wake up, we go down to the breakfast buffet, and the U.S. team coach is just looking at us like he knew we did something messed up, and we're like, what's going on? He's like, you need to go see the security of the hotel right now. Like super pissed, and like, okay. And so they have all of what we did on security cam. They make us watch it. And then they tell us that we have to pay like 3,600 euros to fix all the chairs when the chairs were like, they're like tiny bit bent. And Scotty's like, here, bends it back. And the guy's like, no, you have to pay us. And the handle, they have the handle out on the front. And so we're just like, oh man, that's one of a billion stories. Very wide open. I mean, Amsterdam's a whole nother story, but I don't know if it's appropriate for this podcast.
Well, everything's appropriate, but we're not going to make you tell another story. What we will do is thank you for your time, and that's inappropriate questions. In looking at your career, man, I'm just stoked that your knee is totally good again. Like, it gives me hope. I've had some surgeries, and really seeing that post from you, not that I didn't want to have you on, because you have been on my list, but when I saw that post, it was like, we need to talk about your knee. We're going to talk about your life and times as well, because I love watching the X Games and you're a big part of me wanting to watch them. So it's great to be able to connect all the dots of what I can do with my knee, and then some people I like watching on TV and actually have them on the podcast, tell the story. I thank you for your time. I'm babbling a whole bunch now and I don't even give a fuck, man. So thank you for your time.
Dude, thank you so much for having me, man. That was a blast. I really, really appreciate it. And anybody that's struggling with any pain, livingagain.com. Go take care of that shit. Hit me up. I'll get you a discount and make sure you're all sorted, because got to get back out there. Appreciate it, man. Seriously, that was a great podcast. Thanks for having me.
So that was time with Jack Mitrani. And man, the world really worked out for him. I mean, he was a badass athlete in his own right, but he grew up not just playing second fiddle to his little brother, but like sixth fiddle after his super talented group of friends. And the whole time, he knew his role and was passionate about the projects he put energy into. And then everything else just fell into place. The takeaway is, even if you don't have the most talent, you still have talents, and you should utilize them to the fullest. Who knows? You could get that phone call asking you to be the face of the X Games. And people at the X Games, if you're listening, hire me. Live events are my specialty, and I add value to every event I'm a part of. I don't want to replace Jack Mitrani, as he is a badass, but I think I could be very complimentary to him, and I don't freeze up when an IFB is put in my ear. That's the podcast for this week. Now it's time for me to read my review of the week, and this one was sent in just this morning. It comes from B.S. Atherton, and it is a 5-star review that says the best snow sports / life podcast. And here's the review. Mike's experience in the snow sports industry gives a unique perspective and allows him to get guests that no one else can. He also does his homework. I love it when a guest asks him, "How did you know that?" I've only been listening for about 1.5 years, and I've lost count of the amount of times I've thought the current week's episode is his best yet. That may well be true for this week's guest, Beau Bridges. Not only was it a great interview, but it exemplifies how Mike's guests can bring something to the table other than just talking about snow sports. Do yourself a favor and give one episode a try. You'll be back for more. I want to thank you for that review, B.S. Atherton. Please email me and I will make sure to send you a beanie. And a couple of things that stick out in the review is the one thing I really love is when guests ask me, how do I know that as well? I take pride in finding details out that no one else gets in other podcasts, and it's fun to bring those out and fun to hear the surprise in my guest's voice when I bring them up. And I also feel like bringing something to the table other than just snow sports is what this podcast is all about. Anybody can have a podcast and ask somebody about their video parts and how that 900 felt and what the snow conditions were like. I try to stay away from all of that shit. There are plenty of places for you to get that. I want you to totally get to know these people that I'm interviewing. I want to get to know them as well, and that is the goal with the podcast, to tell their story about life and times. So I greatly appreciate B.S. Atherton for sending in that review. You get yourself a beanie right there. Now, I am going to tell you how you can send in a review and get yourself a beanie. Here is what you need to do to submit a review through your iPhone. First, hit the podcast icon on your iPhone. Second, search for the Powell Movement. Third, click my logo. Fourth, scroll down to where you see the stars. Fifth, click 5 stars and you're done. But if you want to be in the contest for the beanie and the review of the week, you need to actually write a review. That takes about a minute, and you do that after you do those 5 stars. So please review me. It's greatly appreciated. It does help the show grow. I want to thank you for listening. And finally, I want to thank my sponsors for making this happen. They are Peter Glenn Ski and Sports, the 10 Barrel Brewery, Glade Optics, Stanley, and Weed Maps. Have a great week, everyone.